Are you a tabletop role-playing game designer? Well, I think if you've made stuff for your own game, then yes. Yes, you are. So a few weeks ago, there was a whole big discussion about what makes a tabletop role-playing game designer. And I definitely drafted a few tweets, but then deleted them and decided I'm not going to get involved in this discussion. But here I am, weeks later, still thinking about this stuff. I wasn't sure if I should really be talking about this stuff at all. I thought maybe it's just a waste of time, but the more it percolated inside my brain, I started realizing that this stuff gets at why we play games and why we make games, and I think that stuff is important. Especially as I've been working on my new zine all about magic items. It's just in my head, and I've decided I'm going to make a YouTube video about it. So to be honest, at this point, I don't remember who even started this conversation. They just asked what makes a person a game designer, and then there was a bunch of arguments about terminology and definitions, and I don't really care about any of that stuff. There were a lot of really good arguments, and then I think were some bad faith arguments and some kind of gatekeepy stuff that I really didn't like. I don't know that it's useful, at least for me, probably not for you, to get into all of the drama and stuff. But my thought on it boils down to this. So this is my latest game, Teenage Mutant Tunnel Goons. It's a hack of Tunnel Goons by Nate Tremay. It's inspired by the Ninja Turtles, and it's a rule book and an adventure. And even though I introduced it as my newest game, these books, the rule book and the adventure, are not a game. I think Kyle and John talked about it on a Splat book recently, but these are just books. This isn't the game. So the game happens when you sit down and you play it at the table. And so I think that means if you homebrew anything, an encounter, you make a magic item, you write a random table, then technically you are a game designer, right? So I'm making this zine. It's called Flick Silverpen's Guide to Miraculous Markets. It's a bunch of food-themed magic items, right? So as I've been writing this zine, I've realized that what I'm doing is taking story, mixing it with mechanics, and adding my point of view to it. So story is all of the in-world stuff. It's the fiction that I am creating. The mechanics are for lack of a better term, out-of-world stuff, the out-of-fiction things, the way that the players are engaging with the story. And then the point of view is just my sensibilities and taste. You mix those three things together and you have game design. So game design is not publishing a book. That's a fun part of making games, but that's not game design. Game design happens when you take the stuff that's in these books or the stuff that you've created and you bring it to the table and play a game with your friends. So why is this stuff important? Why am I getting worked up about Twitter drama? Well, let me pull back, stick with me here, and talk about comics for a minute. I love comics with all of my heart. I spent many years making my own comics. I've published a bunch of zines and even made a comic about making comics. It's a combination of writing and drawing and design. And then there's this other layer to the creative process of comics that's all about taking an idea that you have in your head and turning it into something real by writing and drawing and storytelling. It's just, comics are awesome. But the heartbreaking thing about making comics is that they just take a long time to make, and then they don't take very long to read. So the experience of making a comic is sitting at a desk, writing and drawing. It's a solitary experience, and I think it takes a particular type of person to enjoy that kind of work, because it's many hours of being alone, sitting at a desk. And then the experience of engaging with a comic is also a solitary thing. You simply read it page by page. And I think the best reaction you can have to a comic is you can relate to it, or maybe it inspires you to make your own. And I think designing TTRPGs and writing adventures is similar to making comics, but there are some specific differences that make a big difference in the experience of creating this stuff. So you're still writing, you're still storytelling. In my case, I'm still drawing. The experience of making the thing is largely similar, but there gets a point where you decide to play the game or run the adventure. And this is different than handing somebody your comic to read. This is bringing people into an experience that you've created and seeing how they react and have those reactions change the thing that you've made and its play and togetherness. It's just its whole own unique experience. Okay, so I will admit that there is a jump from making stuff for your own game and making things for other people to use. And maybe that is a big part of game design, I guess. And I can't deny that there is a very special feeling that you get when you create something and other people use it. They create their own stories and make memories with their friends, and then you hear about those things, and it's very awesome. And maybe I haven't figured out the best way to articulate it, but that stuff still feels separate from the actual experience of game design. But my whole point with all of this is that I just really want to encourage you to make your own stuff. Make a game, hack a game, write an adventure, draw a map, make some magic items or just a random encounter table. I really, really believe that if you engage with the creative side of this hobby, that you're going to have a more meaningful, more rewarding experience playing games. And I'll say it again, you don't have to make books to be a game designer. Just make stuff for the game that you're playing, and if that eventually turns into making books, even better. Okay, what do you think about all this game design stuff? Do you consider yourself a game designer? What are the things you make? I'd love to hear about them down in the comments. If you'd like to support the channel, I make monthly tabletop role-playing games and adventures and guidebooks over on my Patreon. You can get Teenage Mutant Tunnel Goons and Outbreak of the Animoids digitally over there right now. And my new book, Miraculous Markets, is there too. I also have an online shop where you can pick up all the zines that I make. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!